It is after the oil wars, the water wars, the third, fourth and fifth global wars, the new culture wars, the end of fracking, and the last animal. It is after the Jovian schism, the lunar split, the end of money, the curator wars, and the bleak events of 2786. It is after all these things, and the ground is brown and orange and black, the sky is yellow and sick and grey, the sun is cold and small and white. I estimate it to be the year 2990, and this account covers the abdication of my post and of my responsibilities. My name is Johannes Farr, the eighth to have the name. My lineage is impeccable. In honor of my sublime and storied breeding, I was elevated to the position of baronial parliamentarian within the Holy European Union. I stand 3 meters tall and 3 meters wide. I was born of flesh, but was improved greatly with all manner of systems. For example, I see in all colors. Such is the wealth of my family. To assist in the sacred reunification of our sunken continent is a glorious thing. In recognition of the accomplishments I have inherited, I was tasked with returning the old constituency of Yorkshire and the Humber back into the benevolent fold of the Holy European Union. I was dispatched from megacity Strasbourg, from whence I walked to where England once was, across a sea of semi-solid foam and jelly. It took me 15,000 minutes, and I did not sleep for the duration. When the floor had sufficiently hardened beneath my feet and I judged that I had hit land, I set a course and navigated off of old street views that were downloaded and superimposed over my field of vision. In tramping the archipelagos of England, I learned that the only settlement in roughly the same place as on the old maps is a dour collection of some 100 or so huts, sullenly existing in a nondescript stretch of the lumpy, muddy brown north, the only extant remainder of the ancient city of Leeds. On the night of my arrival, I stood exactly 1,000 meters from the edge of the settlement and gazed upon it in infrared. Soon after, I crept through alleyways and across rooftops. With eyes unenhanced, I'd have never known that this smattering of shabby clayish huts were all that remained to suggest a city before wars, that these hillocks of sludge had accreted around the ruins of libraries and banks, that this muddy trench through the settlement's centre had once been called a head row. The poor exist here, though they are unlike our urban poor. Centuries of residual atomic radiation, bacteriological and fungal infections, chem waste exposure, and incest have rendered the poor here broken and mishappen. Their bodies display no symmetry or regularity. Each arm and leg is of different length. They are short of stature, with few reaching taller than 1.3 meters. They are hunched and stooped, and often locomote on all fours. Their heads knotted and bumped at irregular intervals. Most lack noses. In this, they are largely akin to most other northern wastrel tribes, and I am obviously uninterested in the particularities of their baseness, ugly and lumpen as they are. No, it is their culture, which they have managed to retain or develop in however primitive a form, that provides cause for consideration. Upon noticing errors in expected behavioral patterns, I set about conducting enhanced interrogations on a random sampling of the population. 3 died before I learned what had occurred. I approached the center of the settlement, and as I neared, overlain ghostly-like unto my eyes, was an ancient image of the Leeds City Art Gallery. Outside, a sculpture, lumpen and mishappen. Reclining woman, elbow, 1981, 221 centimeters, bronze, Henry Moore. The poor had dug a pit, pulled the sculpture from the earth, noticed it looked like they, and read the sculpture's curves and bumps as proof of their worth and goodness. Activity surrounds the sculpture at all times. Some poor dig in new places. They have dug for so long that their extremities have morphed into spade-like scoops that they might more easily pull new gifts from the earth. Some poor endlessly polish the sculpture so that it shines and gleams, as if the browns of the surroundings have gathered to make good, to parade, to say filth can be polished and made worthy. Most simply sit and gaze. A great crowd fills the slopes of the pit. They mumble contentedly to themselves as if each is alone. They bathe in the sculpture's reflected light and grow relaxed as if it feeds them. I regularly check using standard exploratory vivisectional procedures and can confirm that it does not. Perhaps I am projecting onto things too degraded to even think, but something contemplative in their manner disinclines me to describe their vigil as straightforward worship. The final group of poor work the mud of the earth, twisting and pulling it, so that they might mimic and mock the reclining woman in crude flattery. They make little reclining women, rendered from dirt and kept shiny with spit. The greatest of these reclining women generate psychic economies of their own, satellites to the orthodoxy of the real thing at the center. These modern Moors garner their own adoring crowds, their own diggers nearby, their own retching, spitting polishers. In all, the poor here are so degraded that they have retained no sensible semblance of hierarchy, non-rule and non-command. The poor here simply imagine themselves beautiful and render forms from the clay of the earth. Black mold grows freely all across this little settlement. It grows even in the housing. It ripens into thick, bold polyps, which the poor then harvest and eat. I eat of their harvest also. When severely starved of protein, I eat them. I made sure to consume the entire familial group of a single hut so that when finished, I could move into said hut and join the community, closer to the center, in a more intimate manner, as a participant. Though they recoil from me, I see them in the color of truth. Their language grates and their eyes are dull, but I swear I can see the fire behind them. I sit in their homes, and they scream when they see me, but I know they are happy to see me, for how could they not be, to be graced thusly by my presence? It is now between 2 and 3 million minutes since I declined to return to the Holy European Union. The signal to return was transmitted, and I pulled the receiver out from inside of my cranium. Yes, this act weakened me, but, in a way, I have been cared for. Yes, I am diminished, but I am also emboldened. It feels like passion. In secrecy, and at night, when none are around to look, I attempt to produce my own reclining women. Thank you.